Welcome to Sufi Magic. This chapter is on a very sensitive topic, a topic which has created many doubts in last 150 years. But the reason for such doubts was only its sensitivity. No one was willing to talk openly on this subject. I am splitting this chapter in two parts. The first part will talk about the seriousness and sensitivity of the subject, so you may be able to understand that things are not that simple. The first part will raise many questions, which will first seem to be a dead end, but the second part of this chapter will prepare you for the answers. Fossils are being found in history since a very long time, and fossils is the name for the bones which might be buried in earth for millions of years. These fossils belong to dinosaurs and sometimes to extinct animals. But in the year 1856, a fossil was found in Germany which changed everything and challenged many religions and even Muslims. This discovery was of a human-like skull, and by human-like I mean that it was human in shape, but it was much flatter and much larger skull than a human skull, as if it belonged to a creature much like humans. To find the age of this skull, the scientific method of carbon dating was used, and with this technique they figured out that this skull belonged to a creature that lived millions of years ago, that looked much like a human. But to doubt the claim of millions of years is essential, because in the method of carbon dating, if the sample is contaminated, then the end result can be completely wrong. Carbon dating is not a very reliable method. On one hand, fossils after fossils were being discovered during these diggings, and on the other hand, to figure out the accurate age of these fossils, newer technologies besides the carbon dating method were also discovered. For example, radiocarbon dating, for example electron paramagnetic resonance, or thermoluminescence dating, or radiometric dating, or incremental dating. And at the moment, the latest technology to discover the age of these fossils is accelerated mass spectrometry and uranium-thorium method. In these methods, scientists can directly sample the pigments of an object and can tell how many thousands or millions of years old that object is. It raises two questions. It is possible that a single method of dating these fossils may not be correct. Even a combination of two methods can bring wrong results. Even a combination of three methods can be wrong, but if all the technologies are showing the same results, then it is hard not to believe these fossils actually really are millions of years old. And the second question, that a single fossil might be fake, a couple of fossils might be fake, possibly even 10 fossils might be fake. And it is true that people have faked some of the fossils, but it is also that so far 6,000 such fossils have been discovered whose authenticity and age simply cannot be refuted, and that they actually are millions of years old fossils. Eventually, a very dangerous theory developed that these skulls belonged to a strange creature that inhabited this earth before humans, and it was much like animals than it was like humans, and that humans actually evolved from that creature. And this theory was named the theory of evolution, the concept of the ape origins of human. It was a very dangerous theory, and modern minds started to question that. Is evolution true? Did human really come from an animal-like creature? And if it true, then this theory has a major clash with nearly all divine religions, that the first human, Hazrat Adam, was created with earth's clay, whereas this theory states that human evolved from an animal-like creature. To confront this clash, almost all the religions came up with their theories. Christians confronted it by refusing it, calling it a hoax, a fake, and a fraud, and God only placed these fossils in earth to test our faith. Similarly, the Jews refuted the evidence and called it fake, but within Muslims, the opinion was divided. Some scholars preferred to remain silent. Some scholars agreed with parts of this theory and refuted other parts of it, and some scholars declared it nothing more than a theory or a guesswork. They declared it an assumptive delusion. But there is a problem. Only declaring it to be a theory or guesswork, one cannot avoid the facts. Modern generation educated from universities raises many questions. Even in 1970s, Turkey, Saudi, Lebanon and Pakistan had to make a proper campaign that theory of evolution is a lie, a fraud and a deception. Finally, the majority of scholars agreed upon adopting the policy of tawakkuf, which means that it is not important to discuss things which are not mentioned in Quran. But the policy of tawakkuf did more harm than good, and now 19% Muslims believe the theory of evolution to be a fact, that humans evolved from animal-like creatures. And when McGill University conducted a survey in high schools of different countries in 2009 and asked students a question that, do these fossils make you believe that the theory of evolution can be true? A baffling 86% of the students answered yes. And then in the year 2013, a survey from Pew Research showed that the percentage of the believers in evolution is increasing exponentially. Even conservative countries had a population of 26% of the believers of this theory. And this is the reason that when in 2014, ISIS took over Mosul, one of the first tasks was to forbid teaching the subject of biology in schools. At this point, I remember an anecdote that I read in St. Augustine of Hippo's 5th century book De Civitate, meaning the city of God, that 170 years after Jesus, in front of a Roman Emperor Julian, a Greek Christian and an Egyptian atheist debated, and after hearing the point of view about Adam from both of them, Emperor Julian said that it is possible that there have been Adams more than one. And after considering all these fossils, a large number among Muslims too believes the concept of multiple Adams. And I hope that now the seriousness of this topic and the sensitivity has become obvious to you, that to deal with this subject intellectually and with sound arguments is of great importance, and to deal with it intellectually, Quran, Hadiths and these fossils themselves must be studied with much attention. How strange are these fossils? Let me tell you about some of them. In year 1974, a bipedal skeleton was discovered from Ethiopia, meaning a skeleton of a creature that could walk on two legs. This skeleton belonged to a female or a female-like creature, and out of their affection, local people started to call it Dinkinash, which literally means you are so pretty. Today, we know this skeleton as Lucy. In the last 50 years, Lucy has been taken to multiple countries and has been a subject of many researches. And if you have watched a 2014 movie called Lucy, its name was actually a reference to the same Lucy. After they discovered her age using a number of methods, it became clear that Lucy used to live 3.2 million years ago, and the University of Texas concluded in their research that Lucy had actually fallen off a tree and later some kind of animal ate her, and one of the animal's tooth is in fact still stuck in Lucy's hip bone. Similarly, two more skeletons, one of which used to live in Ethiopia 2 million years ago, and the other fossil skeleton found in Kenya, a young aged boy skeleton called the Turkana boy. But I also want to tell you about two extremely strange discoveries. The first one was discovered in modern-day Israel, not one or two, but an entire family of 9 skeletons, collectively called as Kazfe. And one of the strange things is that the smallest skeleton was that of a child, in whose hands a stag's antlers were gripped. The second discovery was made in a spacious cave of Indonesia called Liang Bua. Just like Kazfe, not one or two, but an entire family of 9 skeletons was discovered, but the strangest part is that none of them was any taller than 3 feet in height. One would call them midgets in modern-day terms. They were actually given the name of hobbits. Furthermore, in China, the Peking man, the Petrolonus skull from Greece. All of these fossils are millions of years old. Anton's child from South Africa is such a strange fossil that it is considered neither human nor animal, but a completely different species. At this point, things start to seem extremely complicated. These skeletons are confronting us with the idea of evolution, which states that humans evolved from animals. And to make this argument even more interesting, in this chapter, I am picking the hardest challenge. the discovery made in Germany in 1856, and that skull belonged to a creature before Adam called Neanderthals, who appeared in this world 450,000 years ago and lived until 40,000 years ago. They are one of the most popular pre-modern species by far, often portrayed in the movies as the archetypes of a common Stone Age man, a barbaric tribal creature, just able to create basic grunts from their mouths and used to live in the caves. Neanderthals are a difficult challenge because Lucy and Torn's child can easily be declared as too old to be humans. 3.2 million years old, Lucy was much closer to primates like chimpanzees and gorillas. But Neanderthals are a different matter, and in this chapter, I'm going to tell you something that will make you consider them almost humans. Their skeletons have been found mostly in Eurasia, meaning Europe, and Asia. Most of them are in France, Spain, Slovakia and Germany. The shape of their skeletons tell us that they were a bloodthirsty species, used to live in caves and able to light a fire, could use leaves and herbs as a basic medicine. The height of male Neanderthals used to be 5.5 feet, and their females would stand 5 feet tall. They were ambush hunters, meaning they used to hunt in packs and with stealth. They used to hunt stags, deers and wild boars. The shape of their knees tell us that they had a powerful build and could easily run up to 35 to 40 miles. What is your opinion about Neanderthals after hearing all this? Our mind can easily be tricked after looking at all these characteristics that these are quite humanly qualities. This is quite humanly behavior, to take medicine, to light a fire, and this is where many of the people end up considering Neanderthals as predecessors of modern humans, and evolution starts to seem true. And on this critical point, the second part of this chapter begins, in which I will teach you the answers to all these doubts and questions. In fact, I'm going to prepare you in a way that your own concepts regarding the theory of evolution shall be cleared. The main reason for these doubts is that Neanderthals knew how to create fire. They knew how to control it. We know this because on the ceilings and walls of Neanderthal caves, we find manganese dioxide, which is basically a residue of a burning fire. But is burning a fire evidence enough for them to be humans? Fire has been used on this planet for past 800,000 years, but human is not the only one who knows how to control fire. There are others besides humans who can use fire. Are you aware of an Australian eagle called the black kite? It has been assumed since long that whenever there is a wildfire, black kite clings towards fire to catch the fleeing insects from burning grass. But now, it has been discovered that often the black kite himself sets this wildfire. He searches and collects the small wood from entire jungle, which becomes dry due to the high temperature of direct sunlight. High heat flares fire in these small woods, and the black kite throws these burning sticks onto the dry grass. Thus the fire draws out tiny insects hiding in the grass, and black kite gets the prey. There are other creatures besides humans who know how to control fire, and Neanderthals were certainly one of them. The second ability of Neanderthals, which tricks people to believe that maybe they were human predecessors, and that ability was to be able to use basic leaves and herbs as a medicine. But the ability to use herbal medicine is evidence enough for them to be humans. All living beings use medicine. Macaw parrots from Brazil eat a certain kind of clay that kills certain worms and bacteria in their intestines. Similarly, pregnant lemurs from Madagascar eat fig leaves during their pregnancy, which increases the quantity of milk in female pregnant lemurs. The pregnant elephants from Kenya, during their pregnancy, they eat certain leaves which they never eat in their usual diet. Perhaps you will be surprised to know about the Brazilian spider monkeys begin a diet of certain fruits during their mating season, a characteristic which has only been associated with humans. So far, for your interest, throughout the animal kingdom, the knowledge of animals about leaves and herbs as a medicine is studied as a subject called zoopharmacognosy, which literally means animals' knowledge about the medicine. Medicine is used by creatures other than humans, and Neanderthals were certainly one of those creatures. Third argument, which tricks people to consider Neanderthals as a precursor to humans, is that they used to hunt in packs. They used to hide in the bushes and wait for their prey. Perhaps this is the question's easiest to answer. At this time, there are 307 kinds of animals who ambush their prey, for example, Bengal tiger, crocodile from the River Nile, bear, and there are more than 400 animals that create a pack to hunt their prey called the pack hunters. The interesting part is that these pack hunters include killer whales too. They include heresies, hawks meaning birds too. They include grey wolves meaning the land animals too. Pack hunting is a technique used by many creatures other than early humans, and Neanderthals were certainly one of those creatures. At this point, it should become clear to you that burning fire, eating medicine, or hunting wild animals by creating a pack, these are not ultimate evidences for being a human. Creatures besides human have such characteristics too, but from now onwards, I will tell you some things by which you will easily be able to differentiate between the humans and Neanderthals. And in the end, I will give you the strongest argument. I told you that Neanderthals used to live in parts of Eurasia, meaning Germany, France, Slovakia, Spain. These are the countries that have much cooler winters. Days are smaller and the nights are much longer. And when Neanderthals inhabited there, it was the last glacial period called Ice Age, meaning more than half the world was covered in ice. And this last glacial period ended long after the extinction of Neanderthals, which raises a question that if Neanderthals were human, or any precursor of modern humans, why did they not migrate to warmer climates and parts of the world? They could easily run and walk 35 to 40 miles in one go. Why did they prefer to live in dark, cold caves of these darker and cooler countries? This question can teach us two of the very important things. First thing, Neanderthals less liked the daylight and preferred the darkness of night. And second thing, that the genes recovered from their bones carry two of the very interesting proteins, ASP1 and XOX6. Both of those genes prove that they slept through during the day and spent the night awake. But humans, on the other hand, this information might be new to you, but a human body has a biochemical process in it called the circadian cycle. But the surprising thing is that this circadian cycle is actually synced with rotation of the sun or solar time. In simple terms, it means that human sleep in the hours of night is natural, whether he likes it or not. After the sunset and during the night, human will definitely feel sleepy, and waking up during the day is inevitable due to this circadian cycle, and this natural requirement of a human body is described beautifully in 23rd verse of Surah Rum, that the signs of his lordship is in your day and night sleep. Second thing, that 80% of the Neanderthals died before the age of 40. One of the biggest reasons for that were the animals of that era, and Neanderthals had to struggle and fight with them to take over their caves. In the year 2016, 124 skeletons belonging to Neanderthals were carefully studied, and it was concluded that out of those 124 Neanderthals, 92 were killed due to fierce animals' attack, and most of the animal attacks were done by cave bear, a prehistoric cave-dwelling bear, followed by the attacks from a large fanged tiger called Smilodon, and then followed by wolves' attacks, and the remaining 32 Neanderthals were killed in search of food, or they killed each other, about which I will tell you later in this chapter. Neanderthals could not find a safe place in Earth so easily, a perpetual and a never-ending struggle of survival against such ferocious animals, who too eventually extinct just like Neanderthals. And then, a place for human was created in this Earth, and this favor can be found in Surah Araf mentioned as, "We alone gave you a safe habitat in the Earth. It was us who placed your livelihood in it." Third thing, that Neanderthals' physiology is completely different from humans. They had huge nostrils, and the shape of their knees show that they could run 35 to 40 miles easily in one go, and that they were cannibals, meaning they used to eat each other, like some animals do, as sometimes chimpanzees do, as sometimes lions do, as sometimes hippopotamuses do. You must have heard of hyenas. In hyenas, females are often larger than males, and it had to be because hyenas have a bad habit of devouring their cubs and each other. So a larger female can protect her cubs by scaring off a male hyena, or males would devour all the small cubs. In the caves of Croatia, Spain and Belgium, a femur bone of a Neanderthal was discovered, from which the bone marrow was extracted by breaking it. From France, another Neanderthal skeleton was discovered that had teeth marks of another Neanderthal on its ribs, which tells that one Neanderthal and devoured the other. And from Spain, 12 skeletons have been discovered whose skulls had been split open to devour the brain, and 3 of those skeletons were in fact of children. Professor Paul Pelted from Durham University studied fossil 1333 discovered from Ethiopia, and he says that from Germany to China, we have discovered Neanderthal fossils with cracked skulls. Their bone marrow has been extracted and devoured. It had been long assumed that crack opening of a skull was perhaps some kind of a religious ritual, but in 2010, new and improved technology was developed, through which the study of these fossils was improved, and an improved study brought us a better interpretation, and we discovered that it was not a religious ritual, but for the purpose of food. Neanderthals were literally eating each other's brains. There is a cave in Croatia called the Vindia Cave. None of the Neanderthal skulls found in that cave is intact. All of them have been split open to extract the brain to be used as food, but humans just think about it. Neanderthals have gone extinct around 40,000 years ago, and merely few thousand years later, humans were growing and cultivating taro on the Solomon Island. In fact, it is one of the oldest evidences of agriculture in any human culture. Cultivation of taros on Solomon Islands 28,000 years ago. Second difference between the food resources of humans and Neanderthals. Neanderthals were practicing cannibalism on each other 40,000 years ago, and merely few thousand years later by the Sea of Galilee, such tools are discovered that were once used to cut the crops. And not just that, but those tools had such marking on them that show that those tools were used to cut some kind of soft green crop. For your information, it is the same Sea of Galilee which will dry up before the release of Juge and Majuge as a sign. Human and Neanderthal diet was completely different, and a verse in Surah Isra says, "Indeed we have dignified the children of Adam, carried them on land and sea, granted them good and lawful provisions, and privileged them above many of our creatures." Just think about it for a moment. Neanderthals were running 35 to 40 miles, and children of Adam were given ways to travel through land and sea. Neanderthals were committing cannibalism compared to children of Adam who were given good and lawful provisions. Taros, maize, wheat. It is reported by Ibn Abbas that the first staple food Adam ate in this world was wheat. And pay attention to the last part of this verse, that children of Adam were given privilege above many of the creatures, and among those creatures, Neanderthals are certainly included. It should be clear by now that Neanderthals, compared to humans, a completely different creature, a creature with very basic needs whose only purpose was to eat, sleep, defecate, and procreate. And I will give you a strong evidence from Surah Shura. Fear He who created you and created those before you. Normally those before you here is considered to be the ancient nations, but pay attention to the Arabic word for those before you, Yi Bilat al-Awwalain. And my question to you is, what is Yi Bilat? Yi Bilat means very basic requirements of life, a life form, a creature whose only requirements and tasks in life are eat, sleep, defecate, and procreate. And on the concept of such a basic form of life, this creature called Neanderthals perfectly fits. And now, the strongest argument for children of Adam to be privileged above any other life, as I promised you earlier, the argument which Allah Himself gave us basically in the beginning of Quran, Surah Baqarah. Allah taught Adam the names of everything and presented him to angels, a gift given by Allah to Adam on his creation, a noble gift, language, the ability to speak. He was taught the names of everything. He was given the ability to speak. He was given the language. Since I am sourcing this argument from Quran, you will see further in this chapter that there can be no bigger argument than this between humans and other creatures. There is a gene in human DNA called FOXP2, meaning thick-head box protein. This gene is responsible for the language development in humans. Scientists often call it the grammar gene. Humally, in 1998, our entire family from England visited hospital for their speech disorder. They could not speak properly. It was then when this gene was accidentally discovered and was called the language gene. This gene is also responsible for lungs and the body growth besides language. If we did not have this gene, not only we could not speak, but our heights would have been much shorter. Neanderthals had this gene, but not the variant which enables us to speak. In simple terms, it means that the Neanderthals could only grunt. A scientist named Dr. Lieberman Philip tried to create a Neanderthal vocal tract and tried to create their natural voice, but the end result was that Neanderthals could only make a sound like a newborn baby. They could not create a sound from nose, like you would normally speak the word N. But humans, do you know that our mouth uses 18 mechanisms to create a sentence? It is an ability only possessed by humans in all the creatures. But now starts the most interesting part of this chapter, because this part will talk about a gift given to Adam from the gifts of Allah, the gift of teaching him all the names, the gift of language,